Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Today we're getting stuck into a match that, well, it really had us talking. The Springboks versus Wallabies at Ellis Park. This was big. Australia's first test win on South African soil since, 2012 in Durban? A huge result. We've gone through James Wiles' 5 key takeaways article with a fine-tooth comb to bring you the best bits. So, if you love getting under the skin of rugby, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession wherever you get your deep dives. The big question we're wrestling with today is, was this stunning Aussie win just a blip for the Boks? Or have the Wallabies shown everyone else how to maybe challenge South Africa's new approach?
That's a great way to put it. It really was a game of two completely different stories, wasn't it? Our job today really is to unpack how that shift happened. What were the key moments? And, what does this actually mean for both teams going forward? We need to look at the tactics, the big individual plays that, led to a result not many saw coming after 20 minutes.
Okay, let's dive into that. This game of two parts idea. South Africa came out absolutely flying. That first 20 minutes, magnificent. They scored 22 points, looked like they might just blow Australia away completely. It felt overwhelming watching it. How did they manage such a dominant start? What clicked?
Well, what was fascinating right from the kickoff was their total controlling here, just absolute dominance. Grant Williams' box kicking was spot on, really precise. And then the chase, the sheer physicality they brought, guys like Kurt-Lee Arendse, Edouard van der Merwe, even Eben Etzebeth getting up there, they just swamped Australia under the high ball. That first buck try, for example, came straight from an error by Tom Wright under pressure in the air. KLA just pounced, screamed over for the try. Their kicking plan was, it was executed perfectly. Dynamic chases hitting static catches, textbook pressure. And it wasn't just the kicking, the attack under Tony Brown showed a real ambition to play with width. Williams was firing these wider passes, stretching the defence, and that led directly to Andre Esterhuizen's first test try. Brilliant bit of interplay. Peter Steph du Toit hitting that inside line, just sliced them open. So, it was a mix, that aerial power plus this new, wider attacking threat.
Right, so they were hitting them with the high balls, but also stretching them wide, almost a double threat. Sounds like a smart approach, and it clearly worked early on. But then, this is where it gets wild. After that Springbok blitz, the next 60 minutes, described as a tidal wave of gold ingenuity. South Africa gave up 38 points after being 22-0 up. That's staggering. Yeah. How on earth did Australia manage such a complete turnaround from being totally swamped to dominating?
And that, I think, raises the really big question about the Boks tactics, doesn't it? This desire to play wider, this new attacking shape. Did it maybe disrupt their own natural rhythm? Maybe compromise their usual defensive structure? Because what happened next was Australia just thrived, especially in transition from broken play. Their back row was immense. And you had James O'Connor pulling the strings, Justice Suaalii adding that power. They just came alive. South Africa conceded 17 turnovers. 17. You just can't do that against a team like Australia. You're basically handing them the ball in dangerous positions, playing right into their strengths. Fraser McRae, wow, he was like his 2022 Adelaide performance all over again, wasn't he? Just phenomenal at the breakdown. 4 penalties won, 2 turnovers forced, and 20 tackles. Just unbelievable work rate. Then Harry Wilson, the captain, steps up with 2 tries. Real leadership. And in the midfield, O'Connor and Suaalii were just magnificent, kept breaking the line, involved in 6 tries altogether. It was an incredible fight back. And that moment, O'Connor's pass for Max Jorgensen's try, just perfect. A 30-meter bullet off his left hand from halfway. Pure class. Vision, execution, everything. Yeah, a total momentum shift. Fueled by Aussie aggression and, frankly, Bo errors.
If you're finding these insights as gripping as we are, and you want more deep dives into rugby, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession today. Those Wallaby numbers on attack are, pretty eye-watering. Okay, let's look at the overall stats then. South Africa, they build their game on the fundamentals, right? Breakdown, aerial contest, defence, set piece. But the numbers from this whole game, they paint a bit of a worrying picture for the Boks. What do they tell us?
They really do. When you look deeper, you see where South Africa fell short of their own very high standards. The line out, usually such a weapon, was only at 68% success. It's not good enough for them. Defensively, they missed 26 tackles. An 80% completion rate sounds okay. For the Boks, that's leaky, shows cracks. And the post-contact meters, that's where games are often won. They lost that battle by about 70 meters. Australia made 395 meters after contact. The Boks only 325. That screams missed tackles, lack of dominant collisions. These are definite alarm bells for Rassie and the coaching team. Their back row, usually so dominant, just seemed, a bit off balance. Lacked that usual industry, caught out of position sometimes. And look at the tackle stats. This is really telling. 8 of the top 10 tacklers are Australians. McWright with 20, Hooper 14, Wilson 13. That's a massive effort from their loose forwards. For the Springboks, only Etzebeth with 16 and Esterhuizen with 9 made that list. That shows a real imbalance in the workload. And maybe the most damning stat for South Africa, only 2 of Australia's tries started deep in the bulk 22, the red zones. 4 of them. 4.
Were scored from turnovers between the 22 and halfway. That's a brutal indictment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Coughing up the ball in midfield and just getting punished relentlessly on the counter shows issues with retaining possession and maybe defensive transition.
Wow, yeah, those numbers, especially where the tries came from, that really highlights some core problems for South Africa on the day. Okay, so every game is a learning opportunity, right? Even when you win. Looking at the work-ons, what were the key things both teams need to look at after this match? What needs fixing?
For South Africa, number one has to be the penalty count, especially at the breakdown. They gave away 5 penalties in a row on the floor for technical infringements. That's not just unlucky. It points to ill discipline or maybe just being beaten to the punch by that Aussie back row. And as we said, those 17 turnovers, losing the ball that often under pressure from McWright, Wilson, Hooper, that's a huge red flag. It's interesting, isn't it, that a lot of those breakdown issues happened when Marco van Staden was off the field. It really highlights his importance, that unseen work he does. Then there's Malcolm Marx's line-out throwing. Again, it was around 63% success here. 2 Wallaby tries came directly from simple line-out mistakes. You just can't afford that. His average has been hovering around 60% since he came back from injury, which is, well, it's way below par for a Springbok hooker. Yep. Even Bongi Mbonambi struggled when he came on, lost 3 throws. So that whole set piece function needs urgent attention. These are absolute basics for the Springboks.
Definitely some critical areas there, line out, breakdown discipline, holding on to the ball, foundational stuff. What about the Wallabies? Fantastic win, but no team's perfect. Were there areas they'll look to sharpen up even after a performance like that?
Well, absolutely. You always look for improvements. For Australia, their lineout wasn't necessarily undone by bad throws, but more by Pieter-Steph du Toit just being brilliant. He got up for 3 steals, didn't he? Constantly disrupting them. So maybe they need to look at their calling or how they protect their jumper against someone that dominant. Their aerial game also needs work, especially based on that first half. They were often caught static, trying to jump against dynamic bulk chasers. They got away with it this time, mostly, but it shows a potential weakness if teams really target them with accurate high balls. They might need to adjust their backfield setup or, their contesting technique, and maybe developing more ways to attack besides just off turnover ball. They were lethal on the counter, but if a team protects possession better, they'll need other ways to consistently break the line. What really stands out to you from all this? What's the biggest takeaway for each side, do you think?
That's a good challenge. For me, I think it's the sheer impact of momentum and errors, how quickly things flipped. For the Bogers, the lesson seems to be about that balance, right? Trying new things, like the wider attack, is great, but it can't come at the cost of your core strengths, like ball security and discipline. They got exposed. And for the Wallabies, it's about ruthlessness. They seized on almost every mistake South Africa made, and their defense and breakdown work created those chances. It was about capitalizing on chaos.
Exactly. It just underlines how crucial adaptability is, but also how important it is to pounce on mistakes, especially against top teams. It definitely raises that big question, How do you evolve your game without losing what makes you strong in the first place? South Africa will be doing some serious thinking about how to blend that width with their traditional power game without leaving themselves vulnerable to turnovers. And for other teams, well, the Wallabies have maybe provided a bit of a template, haven't they? Absorb the early storm, attack the breakdown relentlessly, pressure the set piece, and be absolutely clinical when you get turnover ball. It shows even the best can be put under serious pressure. It's a huge credit to Australia's execution.
A fascinating thought to finish on. If you're as obsessed with rugby analysis as we are and want more deep dives like this, please do subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We'd love to know what you thought about the game too, what stood out. Let us know in the comments where you're listening. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.